Hey everyone, and we are now playing Narcissu! Oh wait, shit, I almost forgot. Now streaming Narcissu, or however you pronounce it. Let's post that there. Post this on the Facebooks. So my friends like me. Jason, Ryan, and Dubad. Okay, there we go. Okay, so switch back to you guys. I'll play the game already, Goldfish! Okay, here we go. Now, I've never played this game. Oh, voiced or unvoiced? I'm gonna go with unvoiced because I'm gonna be doing the voices. 2001, 31,000. Wow, that was fast. Spring 996. Sasumi. My health was never particularly good, sure. But I was able to attend primary school like anyone else. In the summer holidays, I was able to play till the sun burnt me black. Okay. It was June, just after I entered middle school. Wait, is this a guy or a girl I'm voicing here? I don't know. I'll just wait. It was June, just after... Okay, it was just before the midterm tests. Midterm. It was the day after I ordered a swimming costume for the summer. That was the first day I was admitted to hospital. I'm pretty sure that's a girl. It was a cold, unpleasant, drizzly day. Shrouded by the rainy sky, murky, white, damp. At first my classmates came to see me every day. When I was out of the hospital, they come over to play with me at the weekend. But that was only a first. Autumn came and passed into winter. I was admitted, discharged, went in for tests, and was readmitted. There were people in my class that I'd call my friends. Before I even realised what was happening, they were merely acquaintances. Then, strangers. With each change of the seasons, I faded from more memories. Oh, I guess I am a girl. I suppose they don't like seeing me. I gotta think of a voice for her. If you've got a normal life, you don't want someone like me in it. Okay, I guess, okay. So, they blank me out. I've passed all those seasons under that white overcast sky without needing to speak to anyone. My English textbook's untouched from the first year midterm onwards. As though even time stopped for me there. What the hell, Ryan? What the hell have you got me into? 8 years later, early summer 2004. Protagonist! It was summer, the sweaty season. Ew. We were all staring intently at the display board. This test sensor was pretty up to date. The display was computerized. The lights on it, the indicators of success would begin to come on. We all watched for our own numbers. 237. 237. About 8% of the lights flickered on. My number was among them. I took the train home. It was a quiet time of the day. The rattling, swaying carriage was practically empty. My left hand, the copy of the highway code they gave me. In my breast pocket, a brand new driving license. I can drive. So, now I'm a driver too. I tried to whisper it so it was a profound thing, but it didn't exactly excite me all that much. I didn't particularly wanted to be able to drive. Just like me. It wasn't that I had any other motive for taking the test. I was just doing it while all my friends were doing. That night, I told my parents I got the license. All they said to me was, "Well done." I tried asking to borrow the car just to see what would happen. All they said was, "Not now." I hadn't been expecting anything else. That was an entirely predictable response. That's just the kind of parents I have. The next day I woke up with an excruciating pain in my chest, bad enough that I took it straight to hospital. I wasn't particularly well acquainted with the place, and at that time, there was a long wait to see. Long and tedious. When at last they straightened up, I was told the examination was over. Then it turned out I was being taken for x-rays and blood tests. Then there was another long wait. There were 3 old issues of jump in the waiting room that day. Then as I reached for the 4th, they came and took me away. My brand new driving license was still in my breast pocket. Apparently I wasn't gonna have that chance to use that quite yet.
So I gotta keep drinking. That voice, not good with it. Protagonist! Autumn 2004. Okay. This is what I used for the trailer.
It was about the time of the year when the city finally started to shut up. I was in hospital, as usual. Oh, I haven't been in there all summer. I've been in and out, back and forth, on and off. I'd had my first operation the previous month. They discharged me afterwards, but I still had to go back in a lot.
I don't know.
Thankfully, it was only a 5-minute by moped. And so the cycle continued. Admission, discharge, test, readmission, and so on, and on, and on. Whether it was for PET scans or for the IRISA treatment, I don't know. Before I knew it, the cycle had been going on for months. My appetite shrank, while the number of medicines I was expecting to swallow just kept increasing. I felt like I could literally see myself getting weaker. Even my legs seemed to be withering. It wasn't my imagination. I would weigh myself, and then the other scales would confirm it. And yet, somehow it didn't really seem all that personal. It was like I was watching it happen to someone else, like it was just a scene for some TV drama. I was unable to underestimate what happened to my body. All of a sudden, I hadn't even grasped the changes were real.
I hope there's another character soon. Because that voice is really drying up my throat.
So though it was as personal as anything could be, still, I could only observe it through the far and disinteresting position.
Protagonist! Winter 2004.
A winter's day. It was a time of the year when moonical Christmas decorations are dismantled. They let me go home for New Year. It was only a temporary thing, but it was a welcome change. I arrived home amidst sleet and driving rain. For some reason, the whole family was there to greet me. My parents had always been quiet and aloof. Today they greeted me with smiles and laughter, though it seemed forced. My sister has never been anything for me but a sharp tongue. Today she'd made my favourite cream stew with fried prawns. We sat around like Kotashu. We sat around the Kotashu. She appealed me at Samsu. I was touched by the being treated with such unusual kindness. It was then that I began to realise that unused driving license was still in my pocket. I began to realise I was probably not going to get much use out of it. That's what I thought, as the false smiles and false cheer washed over me. That's all I thought in the same calm, vague, detached way I've been...
Okay, I'm just going to use my normal voice because that is really getting really tough for me. I've been thinking about this whole affair. Yeah, I've been doing that for 10 minutes, roughly. January 2005. I returned to hospital in the new year. For once, I didn't return straight to the 4th floor. Instead, I was taken to a different room. A discussion room. My father was with me. There was a doctor as well. They talked to me, or rather, at me. I listened. It was me to listen. Yeah, probably. It turned out that this was what they called disclosure. The doctor took a long time to explain everything. He used a lot of long words in the process, as doctors do. But all it came down to was, it looked like I was going to die. Aww. Oh. I couldn't even think of anything else to say. That was the only sound I uttered from the moment I entered the room, till the moment I left it. Apparently that was a good enough response. The doctor produced a biro and began scribbling. The formalities this time revolved around admitting me into the hospice ward. The doctor switched into business mode. My father did the same. As for me, all I could do was sit and be amazed at the efficiency of the proceedings. They moved me from the 4th floor to the 7th, and from a 6-bed ward to a private room. The 7th floor differed from others in a number of respects. The floors gleamed, the ceilings was higher, and the rooms more spacious than before. The bedrooms were pleasant and clean, with large windows designed to maximise the natural light. But those windows were not designed to open. When pushed to their full extent, the gap was still so narrow that I couldn't even get my head quite through it. One other thing was different, the colour of the patient's identification wristbands. I've been wearing one ever since I was first admitted to the hospital. They were plastic bands with the patient's name and blood group on them. My old one had been blue, this one was white. There was my introduction to the 7th floor. High ceilings, white wristbands, and windows that only opened about 15 centimetres. Yeah, Goldfish, I'm going to have to ask you to stop asking that kind of stuff. Trolling or a joke, I'm going to say right now, I suggest you stop. Because, not a nice thing, you're kind of pissing off a few people. It was still a time of the year when all you could get on TV was boring, festive programs. That, in a way, is how I came to meet her. Wait, hang on a minute. Is this a guy or a girl? Huh? I'm confused. Am I voicing a guy or a girl? Yeah, huh? I am confused now. Okay then. Apparently I was voicing a guy the entire time. Okay. Winter 2007, the 7th floor. If you go down the corridor past the nurse station, you'll come to a lounge area off to the side. The place was unusually empty, apart from the furniture, which, when I was there, consisted of a number of sofas and pipe chairs and one TV. I wasn't particularly impressive, only a 28-inch CRT, and at that time of the year all it was showing was boring festive specials. She was watching it without the slightest sign of interest. Okay, seriously, am I voicing a guy or a girl? Her build was slight, her pyjamas pink. There was a white band like mine round her wrist. Seriously, am I voicing a guy or a girl? What really stood out for her was her hair, which reached nearly to her waist. Damn, that's some long hair.
You want?
Oh wait, am I? Okay, whatever. You aren't enjoying that, are you? I didn't really mean anything by the question. I just felt it was my duty to say something, as the soul of a member of the human race present.
Not really.
She replied curtly, without so much as a glance in my direction. I'd at least like to know what they're saying. Perhaps she hadn't really registered my presence. Her eyes remained fixed on the screen in front of her. Don't watch it then, I said, nearly. Discretion overruled me, and I lowered myself into a chair instead, and sat there beside her watching the tedious program. There wasn't anything else for me to do. There wasn't anything else I could do. Okay, we're gonna actually get a picture here. We watched in silence. Goldfish, if you do that, I'll start swinging the banhammer around. That's your only warning. The screen was filled with the usual January twaddle, a tedious variety show, all conjurers and impersonators. From time to time, the speakers would rattle on and compare shrill and foolish laughter. It echoed emptily in the sunlit room. So... It took me a moment to realise she'd spoken. Her eyes still hadn't left the TV screen for a minute. Seriously, we're gonna get a picture or something? I need to know who's... I need to know who's saying who and what.
Which time are you on?
I'm not sure what you mean.
I mean, how many times have you been up here?
Sorry, I still don't understand.
It must be your first then.
My incomprehension was evidently a sufficient answer for her.
In that case, I suppose it's up to me, since there's no one else here now.
It's up to you?
That's the rule.
Okay. Ryan, what have you got me for this? Seriously, Ryan? The rule she added was that newcomers to the 7th floor were to be told certain things. I had no idea what she was talking about. She began explaining, still without so much of a glance in my direction.
Listen carefully then.
Voicer, take a drink. She spoke haltingly. What she had to tell me differed from regards from a speech I received prior to my transfer up here. According to the doctors, this was where one would come to wait for advances in treatment. In the meantime, being here might heal one's heart. He was probably sincere. He may have even been telling the truth. According to what the girl told me, however, that's merely the official line. This was not, in fact, the part of the hospital where unique treatments are tried. Okay! And just like that, parents are like, in. Okay, we're going out. Okay, bye. It was where you wait for your life to run out. That's what she told me. I believed it. I've pretty much come to the same conclusion myself.
So this is my second time
Your second time for what?
that I ended up here.
Finally, she got round to explaining the whole times business. Firstly, this isn't usually just a place where you come and stay until you die. Even if there's no chance of recovery, they let you home temporarily if your condition improves. Then after a while, you decline again, and they bring you back. You go back and forth, and eventually, it ends. The only uncertainty is whether you'll be at home or here on the 7th floor when the time comes. You'll die here or then. It's happened to everyone. And that's the sense of which she was referring to. And it's the second time she's ended up here.
Now I'm only going to say this once, so you've got to listen carefully from now on.
Okay. She continued, her pose unchanged, her eyes still on the screen. Goldfish, I'm warning you. You start starting shit, Goldfish, then I'm gonna flaunt it. If you got something that you don't like about people, keep it to yourself. I'm all for people having free speech in the stream, but this environment starts getting negative, well, I do something about it. Anyway. Okay then. All of you, if you've got anything negative to say in such, about a certain person, or regards to a certain person, keep it to yourself, please. That's all I'm asking. I'm asking you nicely here. Otherwise, as I said, I start doing something. Okay, that's the one for all of you. Okay. The sub changed, but not to everyday trivial like lights out time. There was something rather different she had to tell me.
When you reach your third temporary discharge, prepare yourself. This hardly ever a fourth time. You won't be going home again.
Goldfish, that's a lie, because I know people from, I know people who are Dutch, and, they don't. Okay? Okay.
If you want to run away, don't try to use M
Something. Station.
station. Go to K station instead. But don't eat anything. That's the best way out. You'll put the least burden on your family that way.
Then I realised These, I realised, were the maxims of the 7th floor. The received wisdom distilled from the experience of those who have faced death here. Our law, passed down orally from one ephemeral generation to the next. Our arms mordia. Was tell me that thing you said was up to you?
That's right. It'll be up to you to pass it on to the next newcomer.
That concluded the lecture. She rose and turned, her hair swept round. A lock brushed against my cheek.
Time for my temperature reading.
She turned her back on me and walked off, into the corridor. I was left alone in the room, alone with a shrilly laughing TV and the white flowers by the window. She had not looked at me once. January 10th, 2005, the 7th floor again. Some days passed. It was the time of the year when TV schedules returned to normal, the start of the so-called spring term. We were in the lounge again, staring at the TV as usual. This is crap. Okay, seriously, are we gonna actually see the character?
Yeah.
And yet we carried on watching as we talked. Is it always like this up here?
I'm not sure what you're getting at.
I mean, is it always this quiet? If you discount the doctors and nurses and their helpers, the people who look after us, then I haven't seen anyone up here but the two of us. Is it just because it's early in the year?
Do you want to know the reason?
No, not that badly.
Then I shan't tell you.
That sort of exchange was the closest we got to conversation. The windows were open to their fullest extent. The gap that afforded was meagre, but it let the air in. So there was a gentle breeze in the room, enough to stir the girl's hair, enough to bring life to this room's only decoration, the white flowers by the window. That's how we passed the time, sitting drearily in front of a dull television. The sound of approaching footsteps. Oh my god, are we actually going to see somebody now? So, this is where you've been. Oh no, oh, it's a woman. This was our nurse, a woman advanced in years. From what I've been able to gather from passive glances into the nurse's station, she was the one in charge of the 7th floor. How are you, Setsumi-san? Not running a fever, I hope? Wait, am I Setsumi? I'm gonna assume I'm Setsumi. No, I'm fine. Setsumi. Oh, that was her name. That was her name. That's how I learnt it. Well, so you don't go adventuring outside by yourself again? All right. You had us all horribly worried.
Oh, whatever.
Well, what a thing to say. I don't know young people today. The nurse scolded on in the background. The girl, Setsumi, just sat there, apparently ignoring her with an expression of utter disinterest. Can I adjust my headphones a bit? She stared all the more determinedly at the television, though the program was as boring as usual. And don't forget, we've got to take you for another blood sample later. The scolding subsided at last, and the nurse departed for her station. Are you... I mean, can I call you Setsumi? As I asked, I squinted at her wristband, trying to read the name and blood group that I know would be written on it. You okay, Setsumi?
How dare you leave off the honorific?
Sorry?
A kid like you.
You... What? How'd you make it out like I'm a kid?
Aren't you? Compared to me, anyway.
My blood boiled. It wasn't exactly that I objected to being thought of as young. It was just that the girl had been at least 5 years younger than me. Probably 6. That's why I reacted the way I did. Why I reached into my breast pocket and pulled out that license and thrust it at her. Alright, I may look young, but I'm 20. See? Her eyes flickered momentarily towards the license.
Like I said, a kid.
What's that meant to mean?
Doesn't matter. I'm just a bit older than that. That's all.
Her face expressionless as always. and her eyes remained fixed on the TV, but it seemed to me that they were focused on not the screen, but on some point in the far distance. Are we going to see the characters' faces? The next morning, after my temperature reading, I sneaked into the lift and took off down to the ground floor. The outpatient exit was unwatched. I crept out that way and headed for the exit from the hospital campus. My intended destination was the further of the two nearby stations. I'd learned the rules by heart. Don't try to use M Station. Go to K Station instead. I wasn't exactly trying to run away. He hasn't done anything since the warning, Reggie. So no. Don't go asking me to ban people. I choose when to ban them. I choose when they push the line, not when they push the line for other people. I knew that was no good. I would die on the 7th floor, or at home. I know there was no other option. If anyone had tried to run, they hadn't escaped. But the girl, Tatsumi, I gathered she'd been at the station several times. I'm keeping an eye on the entire chat right now, because it's kind of clear that everything's volatile in that chat between everyone. I just wanted to try it for myself. See it for myself. It wasn't like there was going to be guards on the lookout. Nonetheless, we were the inhabitants of the 7th floor. We weren't like the other patients. Still wondering, I passed on towards the station. It was still early and those around me on their way to work or school. I slowed my pace but continued to walk. Are we going to see people? It turned out to be about 25 minutes walk to the station. In bus terms, I would be about 4 stops away. It was pretty crowded for its size. That was my first impression of the place. If I'd been trying to escape, it would have been stupidly easy. I stood out rather, being dressed in pyjamas, but even so, nobody challenged me. Whether things would have been different at M Station, I don't know. But here I could have just bought a ticket and jumped on a train to anywhere. No questions asked. There was something funny about this. She'd been here. She'd come this far several times, if I understood correctly. That's what puzzled me. As I stood there in the morning sunlight, watching the comings and goings of passers-by. Why did she stop here? Why was she still living on the 7th floor? Night fell. Lights out time passed. Tired of reasoning and unable to sleep, I ended up wandering around the hospital. As an ordinary patient, I wouldn't have dared risk the nurse's wrath in such a way, but we of the 7th floor were given more freedom than most. My wandering feet led me down the dimly illuminated corridor and into the lounge area. I don't know what's going on, but that's where she was too. Hey, you looking outside for a change today? Yeah. She was standing by the window in the darkened room. She acknowledged her presence, but her face did not turn from the glass. I began to tell her about my day. Oh. Wait, what? Oh. Hey, you know what? I went to the station today. To K Station, of course. Like you told me, just to have a look. Really? The usual response. I'd heard that talking about a shared experience might cause her to open up a little. But maybe it wasn't really something she cared about. Maybe she was still here because she wasn't interested in running. Wait, is that me or her? Oh. I'll be going home again soon. Eh? That took me by surprise. She never volunteered any personal information like that before. But I could see the connection. I reckon she could tell what I've been thinking. If I come back, it'll be my 3rd time, so
We might not meet again.
Oh good, my phone's still got battery, just in case. Yeah, I suppose. By going home, she had been referring to a temporary discharge. The law was quite clear on this point. Basically, no one was admitted to the 7th floor more than 3 times. That applied to us above all. The condition progressed faster in our age groups than older people. She was quite right. It was entirely plausible that we might never meet again.
Tell me, which will you choose?
Which what?
Where will you decide to die?
Die. Such a sudden word, spoken so suddenly. For a moment, I'm at a loss for the reply. I don't know. Haven't really thought about it.
No, you're still on your first time.
Her response was muted, murmured, disappointed. She was right. I would have to decide sooner or later. I couldn't stay here forever. I was going to go through the same process as everyone else before me. Out, back, in, weaker, back out, back in, weaker still. I would only have one decision to make, whether to die here on the 7th floor or at home, smothered in false smiles. I don't want to die at home, I think. But I can't face it here either.
What will you do then?
There's not a lot I can. Maybe I'll just walk for as long as I can.
Where to?
She was planning to run away. Oh, right. I got all those wrong. Okay. But then why? Why was she still here? Do you, have anywhere in mind? Are you going to try and stop me? Oh, wait.
Are you going to try and stop me? Or were you hoping to come with me?
No, that's not why I was just, asking.
Please, don't.
She spoke disinterestedly, without lifting her gaze from the window for a moment. She still not once so much as looked at me. Though her face... So... Oh, God damn it. Is someone at the door? I'll be right back, guys. And I'm keeping an eye on the chat. Okay. Wait a second. I say screw it. Yeah, screw it. Just let the dogs bark. The third admonition is the last. That's what the law said, and she was coming to the end of her second time. There's no way that I, a first timer, would understand what that meant. I, who had still not fully grasped the certainty of the immenseness of my own mortality. I knew that would change. Soon I too would have cause to wear that face. It was raining. From time to time the rain would soften into sleet or harden to snow, with sheet or drizzle, but it never stopped. I was indoors, of course, sitting in my usual space, in front of the TV on the empty 7th floor. Let's see. Oh.
Is there anything on?
The usual crap. She passed behind me and lowered herself into the chair without another word. Clearly we were going to have another thrilling day. Ball number 2. So much talking, I'm probably going to lose my voice tomorrow. She was probably just as bored as I was. But we had nothing bad to do. There was nothing else we could do.
Oh!
A reaction? This was unprecedented. What is it?
Nothing.
Her reply was the same as ever. but she wouldn't have gasped for nothing. Startled and intrigued, all at once I began to take in what the TV was showing. It was some natural history program. The screen was filled with the countryside. Trees and flowers mingled into the background. The focus, however, was on the foreground. A host of white flowers. Flowers I recognized. They looked just like the ones that were still by the window, decorating the lounge. Aren't those what we've got in here? They look the same, don't they? I pointed at the screen, then at that vase by the window.
They aren't.
Are you sure? They look like it.
Same species, different variety.
She barely glanced at the flowers before her eyes swung back to those on the screen. To be perfectly frank, even though they were not the same thing, I was still unable to detect any way of which the two varieties differed. It was all the same to me anyhow. Botany wasn't a subject for which I ever felt any particular passion. I stuck with the subject not because it interested me, because it appeared to interest her. It was rare for her to allow a conversation to continue even this far. You seem to do an awful lot. Is this the kind of thing you're into?
Not really.
What, really? I thought you needed to be able to see the difference. Two sets of flower, one alive but distant, a sea of white blossoms on the screen, the other so near just beyond the girl, but dying in a vase. I made another attempt to revive the conversation. What are they anyway? Orchids or lilies or something? Can't think of anything else white. This was hard going. I did my best to feign interest, but it was all I could do was keep talking. As for the girl, she'd already apparently lapsed back into her usual silent and detached state, even. Either the subject didn't appeal to her at all, or she had realised it didn't appeal to me. I was on the verge of giving up and switching off myself when...
Narcissi.
What?
They're Narcissi.
Oh, finally we're getting a picture of her. Finally. Jesus. Took us... How long has it been? 40 minutes? 40 minutes and now we've actually seen what she looks like. As she spoke, she looked at me for the first time. Shaking her waist-high hair, indicating the flowers on the screen with one slender finger, she turned to face me. Her skin was paler than the flowers on the screen, but whiter still than the band on her wrist. And for the first time I got a proper view of her face. It almost seemed to betray a hint of a smile. Okay. Wait a second. Oh, we're left on the 7th floor, watching television.
I'm bored.
Me too. You couldn't call it conversation, but at least we were talking. At least it passed the time. Wait a minute.
You'll be out pretty soon, won't you?
Today? Oh wait, sooner than I thought. That
We probably shan't meet again.
I have no clue.
Yeah, probably.
If she... One sec, can I go back? Oh well. Even if she didn't come back to the 7th floor one last time, it won't be the last. There was no guarantee that that would happen, and if it did, I might as well have been home myself at the time. If anything, the odds were against it.
Have you chosen yet?
Chosen what? Where to die?
Yeah,
No, not yet.
fair enough.
She nodded. She wasn't surprised. Her eyes spoke of despair and isolation, emotions I'm supposed to be inevitable for one on the verge of a secondary discharge. I could sympathise, but I didn't really know how she felt. I hadn't even been told when my first discharge would be yet. Still, I wonder why she brought the subject up now. Perhaps she made up her own mind. Before I could ask her, however, footsteps approached, and an outsider's voice cut in.
Setsumi!
Like, Setsumi, are you ready? Ah, goddammit. apparently he had to go, so...
Sesame! Are you ready?
Oh, it's a different one. A woman entered. The girl's mode, I guess. She looked about the right age. She acknowledged my presence with a nod.
I've got everything right now. Shall we be going? Right. 2 weeks to then.
This last was to me... Oh, wait. This last was to me, and accompanied by another bow. Then she turned to take the girl, her daughter, offering a hand. But she made no move to take it. Her mother took a step closer, reached down to take her by the hand, but the girl wouldn't stand.
Are you alright? It hurts. Where does it hurt? Where does it hurt, Satsumi? Is it your chest? Your stomach? My chest. Right. Wait here. Don't move. I'll call a doctor.
The woman rushed off towards the nurse's station, her visitor slippers flapping across the floor. Leaving the girl sitting there, alone once more, but for me. I didn't know what was wrong with her, or how far her condition had progressed. All I knew was that her name was Sesame, her blood group was 0. That's all that was written on her wristband. But I didn't know she'd been in the 7th floor for longer than I had. Why don't you lie down till the doctor gets here? I pointed to the couch. It had been stuck in the corner of the room. We hadn't any use for it. I could support you back if you like.
No need. No need. I'm okay now.
She stood by herself to prove it. Hey, don't overdo things. Is that what I was going to say? But she was already walking. She was outside before I could finish. Nighttime, after lights out. Find myself once more tired of reading, yet unable to sleep. I end up leaving my room as usual. My wandering lust led me down the dimly illuminated corridor and into the lounge area. That's where she was too. What, still here?
Yeah.
What's up? Not feeling good?
I'm fine.
She was standing in the dark again, staring out of the window. Her discharge must have been cancelled, of course. I didn't know whether it had been cancelled altogether or merely postponed, but for the latter, it would have been a question of weeks, not merely days. You know, I'm beginning to wonder, was that real earlier, or were you faking it? Maybe that was a bad way to put it. I mean, was it because you didn't want to go home?
I'm not sure what you're getting at.
Wasn't that your last chance to leave? She had no answer. Several times over the last week she'd put me to the question of where I intended to die. I had no answer then, while she had been quite as apathetic as both options, both here and at home, appealed to her equally little. Wait, you don't have anywhere else to go, do you?
Well... what if I don't?
Never mind. The room fell silent. She just stood there, staring out of the window. She didn't say another word. She didn't so much as look at me. It was only about 11 o'clock, but nonetheless most of the lights were dimmed or out. This was a hospital. I put contact between the everyday and this extraordinary. It was all the more for us. The 7th floor cases. Yeah, cases. Cases! I end up getting a bit of an accent there. This was our world. We couldn't even go home without special arrangements. We couldn't go anywhere at all. The world she was staring out of now from this dark 7th floor room was one such somewhere else, in the everyday world. There were streets out there, filled with houses, and blocks that were still ablaze with light. Streets filled with people hurrying to and fro, out to parties and home to bed. I was still struggling to come to terms with where I was now. A resident of the 7th floor. An inhabitation of an extraordinary world. There was no place left for me outside. Time had stopped for me. I've passed all these seasons under the white outcast sky without needing to speak to anyone. At first I used to look out of the window, watching kids running to school, watching the world hurry by. When I got tired of that, I started watching TV more. I didn't have anything better to do. Didn't really have any other options. It helped in a way. It didn't matter that I was like outside, whether it was snowing or whatever. It was springtime on TV. Oh, if it was springtime on TV. There was a world for me there. No cold, no heat, no pain. Just dreams. A kind of vicarious, happy life. I ended up collecting a fair body of knowledge. But what I picked up was just facts and figures to me. I somehow lost any sense of the things I saw on the TV screen were actually connected with reality. The books I read were the same way. They didn't seem to be about real things, just abstract concepts. Games were the same. Ultimately, it happened to people too. It didn't seem real myself. My conscience was just an observer. My body and the family fussing around it, more objects of observation. Hi, Blaze Kid! So being transferred up here to the 7th floor didn't change much for me. Everything vanished in the same way when I closed my eyes. That was all I needed, I thought. Decided to think. It didn't seem all that long before the time came for my second temporary discharge. The next time I came back here, I wouldn't even be sure if I'd be capable of walking unaided. I thought it was pathetic. Really, the way I couldn't even struggle against that. I thought it was ridiculous. Really, the way I didn't have a place to go. Let's see. I don't know if this is the male or the female. Stuff in my life, stuff in my heart, carrying a long scar into my breast. Even though I've lived 22 years, it still seems a shame. Up, January 19th, the 2nd floor. The days continue to pass. The previous day's cloud tore and scattered, and the winter sky spread out clear and high. My father made one of his rare visits. His face was pained and drawn. The only time he seemed to cheer me up was when he talked about life insurance. On me. Oh, I need to have a word with the doctor too, so... You left at last. He was probably heading back downstairs, back to that gloomy discussion room. So I was alone again. He brought me some magazines. I had nothing better to do, so I reached over for one. They were on the table with the other stuff he'd brought. Fruit and juice and such. I can relate. But there was something else besides the basket of fruit. Right in front of the melon. A fruit I detest. Keys. Huh. A set of silver, sparkling car keys. My father's pride and joy was his coupe, with its custom interior and trim. He'd never dream of letting me near that thing. That's what these were the keys to. I still get my driving license in my breast pocket, even in these pajamas. Even though I'd lost the chance to use it, I kept it there as to remember that I'd had an ordinary life. I laid a hand on the keys. My fingers closed around them. I'd take them. Didn't really know why. It's just what I ended up doing. It was as though I was watching someone else do it, in a TV drama or something. I had several days' worth of medicine in my room too. Somehow, they ended up in a carrier bag. While I ended up in the corridor. There was nobody on duty in the nurse station. Nobody to see me pass. I continued on past towards the lifts. It was my right hand, the carry bag, and my left, the car keys. Tucked away in my breast pocket, the driving license I'd never thought I'd be able to use. I reached for the lounge and glanced inside. She was in there. Plonked in her usual chair, staring listeningly at the TV screen. Are you having fun there?
Do I look like I am?
Not really. The usual exchange. Her usual expression, detached and distant-eyed. Then... why not come with me instead?
Eh?
I held up the keys for her to see. And continued. I've decided I don't want to die at home. I don't want it to be here either.
Then
Why not come with me instead?
Why not?
And with that, she stood up. She shook her long hair, her lock brushed against the tip of my nose, and she added her medicine to the bag. Then we left the 7th floor together. I switched to the awful television off as we went. The compre's shrill laughter was cut short and silence reigned. Clad as we were in our pyjamas, for anything to change into, we rode the lift all the way down to the ground floor. We left by the outpatient's exit. Of course, not the main door by the reception. It was less conspicuous and handier for the car park. The freezing wind struck us full in the face as we stepped outside. The car park was wide and clear of obstructions, and just made the blast off all the stronger. We hurried together across the tarmac. I was looking for the car. She was looking out for trouble. It didn't take long to find the car. It wasn't the sort that blends in. The silver coupe. Nice! That's a Honda! My father's pride and joy. I unlocked it. Get in.
Okay.
I stuck myself into the driver's seat. She was already adjusting her side. At her side, she needed the seatbelt fully up. She needed the seat fully upright. She was going to be able to see out. Yeah, I know, right? I mean, I don't know if... I think this is a Japanese visual novel. I don't know if you need insurance to drive in Japan, but I know of it. I know in England you do. That's the reason why, even though I've had a driver's license for like 2 years, I haven't driven once because I can't. Okay. Now, it was just a case of pulling the key in the ignition, turning it, while stepping lightly on the accelerator. Just like they taught me at driving school. The engine purred into life. Next, just release the handbrake and let the clutch in gently. Woo! Manual cars! As we were free, we could go anywhere. Or should be able to. Shall we go?
Okay.
She nodded. I shifted into second in reply. And we began to glide forward. You man's going to first, you dumb fuck! It was not the smoothest start. The clutch was unfamiliar, and changing gears was consequently a rather bumpy experience. Steering wheel on the right. Wait. Loj, I thought... I must have been confusing with someone else, but over here in England, and I think in Japan, it's always right-hand drive. Or right wheel. The wheel's on the right over here in England. Ah, so you're used to American-built cars, where the steering wheel is here on the left. Yeah, to us, this is perfectly natural, so I was just like, what? Bit jerky. Right.
Bit jerky.
Yeah, I haven't driven this before. Come to that, I haven't driven at all since I passed my test.
I see.
It wasn't far to the car park exit. I opened straight onto the main road. There was no traffic lights. I drove straight off without stopping. Our entry onto the road was greeted by a sentinel of horns from the traffic behind us. I accelerated to the speed of the flow, trying not to be flustered by the crunchies and the jerks that accompanied every incipient change of gear. This shuddering acceleration applied not only to enrage the driver behind us all the more. He honked angrily. Perhaps he taped the horn lever down. I managed to push him out of my mind and concentrate on driving. I still wasn't really with it. The whole affair seemed vaguely unreal.
You okay there?
How do you mean?
Are you scared?
Wait.
Would it help if I...
What? I don't know who it is. Not quite what I meant. It was still morning. The sun was high. The January sky stretched out up beyond the windscreen, still blue and empty. We had no particular place to go. It was day for a cold sky, an unfamiliar clutch, a fast car with a shaking chassis. Clearly he's not got the clutch in properly or down properly or whatever. It was a day to hit the road together, in our pyjamas. Yes, he did, pretty much. It was that kind of winter day. January 19th, 2005. Then came the time of the day where the sun began to sink and redden. Yeah, but that's Europe. Technically England is part of Europe, but technically it's also separate. And England, it's always on the, right. Oh wait, yeah, it's always on the right, yeah. Before I misread that for a second. I had simply driven all day, never once pausing, never once thinking about where we're going. At length it came to my, what do you call it? Shh. Quiet, Kreutzer. Back in the 1800s it was. We owned pretty much the entire world back then. Anyway, at length it came to my attention that I did not in fact have the faintest clue of where we were. Mind if we stop for a moment?
Okay.
It was time to stop and think. We were well away from the sea now, of course, out in the middle of nowhere. We'd barely seen so much as another car for the last few kilometres. I drew up a nameless lay-by and began to take stock of the situation. For example, what resources do we have? Having departed rather hastily without proper plans, we were likely to be faced with some difficulties. I began to check the various pockets and compartments around the car. There isn't much to live off. There were a few hundred yen in the ashtray, presumably change for highway tolls. Apart from that, just a couple of manga volumes, a disposable camera. No, it didn't. It was a good thing that we didn't have any destination in mind because the GPS navigation style seemed to be broken. All I had to add to that was the lull I brought with me when we left. My total assets, including the change from the ashtray, barely came to 9,000 yen. I can't say I was particularly surprised to find so little had been left in the car. But it was still a blow. With funds this limited, there was no chance we were going to be sleeping in hotel beds. I could guess that the girl won't have much money on her. I'd seen what she put in the bag. Just medicine.
What?
Nothing. Well, I've been expecting it to turn out like this. We were actually pretty well off, given that we'd set out without any planning or preparation. In any case, there was no point sitting around. I wanted to be on the move, not stuck in a lay-by. We pulled into the road again, under the setting sun. How are you doing? Getting hungry yet? Come to think of it, neither of us had eaten since breakfast. Next time we come through, should we try and find a grocery and grab some food?
No chance.
Don't get picky now. In any case, anyone's going to be better than... Anything's going to be better than what they gave us back on the 7th floor. She looked down at herself silently, and I realised what the problem was. Those pink pyjamas. Good point. I glanced down my own outfit. I had to admit, they were more going to stick out rather if we didn't change into daytime clothes. Respectful art trade's going to have to be a priority. So next time we reached a turning for a town, I took it. I don't know what the town was called, nor the name of the street we ended up on. We were somewhere near a station. There were quite a few people around for the time of day. There's bound to be someone, somewhere around here. I drove along slowly, sitting upright, looking in all directions. There they are. An automatic laundrette. It was on the ground floor of a rather dilapidated looking block. This looked a good place as any. I parked a little way up the street. I'll be back in a moment.
Huh?
I shut the car door on a questioning look and strolled back to the laundrette. The door still open as I approached, letting out a puff of hot air that filled my nostrils with a scent of bleach. The walls were lined with antique washing machines and tumble dryers. This place was run down inside as out. Anybody here? There was nobody there. Only one machine was in use. A tumble dryer in the far corner was emitting a deep hum. I strolled over to it and peeped at the timer. It was barely 5 minutes into a 200 yen half-hour cycle. Whoever was using it must have had better things to do than wait for its finish. I paid back outside, just in case they were still inside. There was literally no suspects to be seen. So I went over to the machine and yanked the door open. The failsafe kicked in and the drum stopped spinning. I took the bundle of laundry out, trying to ignore the heat and the coiling steam. Then, taking a lot in both arms, I took one last look around and stepped back outside. The car door slammed shut behind me.
Oh!
Apparently, she hadn't guessed what I was going to do. My armful of damp laundry provoked a gasp. I dumped a lot on the back seat. Off we go. A perfect getaway. I was steering more confidently now, with one hand on the wheel. The amount of laundry filled the rearview mirror. From what I could see, it was all menswear, flashy jeans, sweatshirts, all in pretty large sizes. Mostly still wet, but we still had that heater on pretty high, so it wasn't going to stay that way for long. There must be a way you can wear in. There must be something you can wear in that lot. She didn't reply. She looked unethically at the heap. We're just going to have to make the best of it.
Yes, I know.
It'd be a first to admit that I wasn't really happy with the choice of clothes or the method involved in acquiring them. I was even willing to decide that we didn't really have any specific plans for the money we had. But in the circumstances, given how limited our resources are, there was still no way we could justify a shopping spree. Oh, ha ha, Blazekin. We drove on until the moon became clear in the sky. Then I set about finding a quiet, well-lit street where we could stop. I ended up pulling up next to a kid's playground in the middle of some leafy suburb. Then I began the task of sawing through the heap and finding out exactly what I'd managed to liberate. The heat had done the job. The clothes were quite dry now. Thought so. It's all men's stuff. There really wasn't anything apart from the jeans and sweatshirt I glimpsed earlier. They were probably close to my size, so the previous owner must have been about my build. I picked out a suitable pair of jeans and t-shirt I could bear to be seen in, and began to wriggle into them the best I could in the confined space. Come on, get yourself into something.
They were all too big.
Are you just going to stay in your pajamas then? Oh, alright. Clearly reluctant, but recognised the need, she tugged some garments from the heap and opened her door. Where are you going?
To get changed.
Of course she was heading for the public toilets next to the playground. That was quick. She was dressed now, navy jeans and a white sweatshirt. Pink pajamas were still in her hand. Glad you could find something. She didn't reply. I wasn't surprised. The fit was also as I feared. The clothes were practically hanging off her. She had to turn up her trouser legs quite the way just to be able to walk in them. Her sleeves had the same treatment.
I was better off in my pajamas.
Don't say that. At least you'll be warmer this way. She replied only with a slight pout. I guess they were a bit more, feminine?
Whatever.
She was no more talkative than ever. I'd been expecting to at least sulk a little over the clothes, but instead she just retreated back into her usual expressionless mask. It started to rain. It sheeted down from the cold January sky, as though I'd forgotten how to stop. The windscreen was gradually obscured by hampering raindrops. After a while, as the mass built up, they began to coincide. The beads brimmed and overflowed, sending river chills trickling down the glass. As those streams met and gathered strength, they picked up further volume from the rain. The windscreen became a riverbed. For a while, I just sat in the driver's seat and watched the rain. A lonely lay-by, somewhere up in the hills. We paused at a grocery store to buy some food. That was where we stopped for the night. We hadn't bought much. 2 on a girl each, 2 half-litre bottles of Procal, and a potato between us. It's been a while since I've had stuff like this.
Yeah.
She nodded in agreement, picking up her first onigiri. Origami. Not something that most people consider particularly wonderful, but compared to the food on the 7th floor, it seemed special enough. Then, as we reached out for the potato, her hand suddenly stopped. Something wrong?
No.
She whispered. She was staring out the window. She was She was staring out the windscreen. I followed her gaze. We'd parked in front of a bank of flowers. White flowers, dripping in the rain. Couldn't guess whether the wild or cultivated, but I did recognize the shape. It's those Narcissus?
Narcissi. You probably know them better as daffodils.
Oh, they're daffodils. Oh, are they the same thing? I'd be the first to admit that botany wasn't a strong point of mine, but even I'd never heard of daffodils. What? You said that, do daffodils just not exist in Japan? Seriously? And once again, their appearance seemed to have coaxed some rare words out of the girl, who usually spoke only when necessary. For that reason, I felt it was worth pursuing the conversation. Are they the same kind then, or something different?
Different.
What? Really? Those other ones must be pretty rare then.
Not really. They're all over the place.
Anywhere in particular? I didn't ask any particular aim in mind. That was just where the conversation happened to lead. But she paused to think about it before opening her mouth again.
West.
In the west?
Particularly on
Oh, Jesus, no.
Aoyashima.
Aoyashima? Hang on, do you have any idea how far away that is from here? It's an island of Hyogo Prefecture, south of Kobe. I wasn't exactly sure where we were. I would say for a fact that she was talking about a place halfway across the country. Couldn't imagine how long it would take to drive there. I never attempted a trip like that. I wasn't sure if I could if I wanted to. I was pretty sure we didn't have enough money to cover that sort of journey in any case. We probably couldn't even be able to cover the fuel costs. Not even if we stayed to the highways to save money. Don't be silly. You must say there's no way we could go that far.
Who said anything about going there?
Huh?
I was just answering your question.
Conversation died there. She climbed up and just sat there, gazing at the flowers. Even after the glass steamed up with our breath, thanks to the cold rain from outside, she still didn't shift her gaze. I didn't particularly want to go to Aoyashima either, but then I didn't particularly want to go anywhere in particular. Chapter 3. Maps. Oh boy, now we're in. Time has stopped for me. I was just collecting knowledge, piling up meaningless facts and figures, draining information from the television screen. The world had lost its reality for me. There was nothing solid out there. But I still enjoyed looking at maps. And I like cars and trains. Things that could have taken me to all sorts of places. I'd spread the maps out on my narrow bed and trace out journeys on them. Saloons, coupes, convertibles. I could drive anything on a map. Along Route 1, for example. Endless Route 1. Running along the beautiful coast, under an indigo sky. It ran to all places like that. Places I could only dream of. Hot beaches curved gracefully around the coast. Baked white sand under my feet. I could go anywhere when my eyes were closed. I could see things I'd never be able to see. I could visit places I'd never be able to visit. I've achieved nothing apart from filling my mind with trivia. All I've done is to increase my longing for things I'll never have. 21st. The rain had stopped by morning. The sky was largely clear. There was just a few clouds streaming alongside it, high, high above us. The roads were still wet, and our tires hissed against the tarmac. We drove without any goal or aim. We just drove through the day. Despite the previous night's conversation, I didn't make any attempt to strike out for Arajishima. There was no point. We couldn't afford the petrol. So I just carried on driving at random instead. It didn't help that I was lost. I know I've been so much good at geography. The road signs were no help. I couldn't even read half the names on them. The navigator being broken was the last straw. I found myself slowing down, straining to read signs as we passed them. I give up.
What about?
Oh, just trying to work out where we are, kind of thing. I tried to answer as unconcernedly as I could. It wasn't like she would be able to help at all.
Winaruma. Saitama Prefecture.
What?
If you take the next right onto Route 16, we'll be heading for Achioi.
How do you know this? Did you used to live near here or something?
Not really.
I was rather taken aback. And have a drink. Here's one thing I don't get. Why is there a save feature when we haven't been given any choices? Well, it was more accurate than I could say I bewildered. I couldn't think of... I couldn't think of how she could know all this. It was hard to believe she'd even had the opportunity to explore the countryside herself. But in that case... Do you know the roads in other places too? Like, do you know the way to Awajishima?
Why? I don't understand.
I'm randomly drinking whenever my throat dries up because, obviously constantly talking, and especially
doing this voice
drives up the throat incredibly quickly. And I drink a course, I'm just drinking normal water, it's all I drink. I was just thinking we might be able to make it if we stayed off the toll roads, don't you think? See, we've probably got just about enough cash for petrol. Do you want to go there? Oh, wait, no.
Do you want to go there?
Oh, wait. Huh? No! I suppose that's not exactly why... I mean...
Don't ask then.
She climbed up again. Her face hardened again and she turned back to staring through the windscreen. Nor did she seem to be looking at the scenery. Her eyes seemed to be focused on something more distant. If they were focused on anything at all. Don't ask, she said. Why not? What on earth did she mean by that? I wondered. How could she have responded as if I'd said I wanted to go there? We pressed on aimlessly. That was inevitable. We haven't had any plans when we set out, other than to go somewhere that was neither home nor the 7th floor. And yet, it may have just been me, but I still couldn't help but feel that it might have been nice to have some goal in mind. Any goal would do, just something to aim for. January 22nd, 2005. The sea. It's a bit chilly out.
Isn't it?
We were standing on a nameless beach somewhere. Somehow we ended up by the sea. I thought I was heading west just because, but presumed at some point we turned south instead. The sky was pitch black and a rough freezing wind was soaring over the beach. We'd left the car on the road and walked down to look at the sea. She was standing with her head down, staring into the distance as usual. Her gaze was fixed on the horizon, where black waves and black skies melted together in darkness. I am not a freaky fish guy! I thought we were just going to look out at the sea for a bit. And I'll harpoon anyone who says otherwise! But then she started walking slowly towards the breaking waves. How do you think it would be?
How do you think it would be?
Now you're the one asking incomprehensible questions. I didn't want you to leave. Like the ocean did. No, she said question, so... I am not a freaking fish guy! And I will harpoon anyone who says otherwise. Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to quickly take a quick bathroom break because of all the water I've been drinking, so I'll be a couple of minutes. Just give me a minute or so. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm back. And I've refilled my drinks as well. Ah. Okay. Would this be a good way to die? Wait.
Would this be a good way to die? I could just walk into the sea, just like this.
She didn't stop as she spoke. She kept on walking towards the surf. The third time is the last. There isn't a fourth time. You would choose either to die on the 7th floor or at home. Nobody's escaped that choice. That's what she told me before. But she'd been coming up to that third time, and she had both options. She'd passed the law on to me. She fulfilled her duty. Perhaps this was the third option. Don't ask me. I've never tried drowning.
What if I did? What if I walked into the sea now? Would you stop me?
This time she turned and faced me as she spoke. The moon was rising in the sky behind her. And those eyes of hers, they were usually lost in the distance, were focused right on me. I don't know. I can't tell without it happening.
Thought so.
She turned away from me again. She started walking towards the sea again. Hey!
What?
Do you actually want me to stop you? Okay, fine. She said, dot, let's take a drink. Good thing I don't drink alcohol, otherwise I'd be drunk by this point. She stopped again, only a few paces away from the waves. The gusty wind battered her ankles with spray. If you want me to stop you, I will.
Not really.
Shall I leave you to it then? She didn't answer. But she didn't do it either. That was answer enough. The morning brought with it the crisp air characteristic of winter. The sky was above the car, so blue, so calm. The overhead wires hummed in the north wind. Their plaintive chant. The silver coupe raced along, reflecting that sky in every panel of its bodywork. I was driving. She was sitting beside me as usual. Once again, I had no idea where we were, but that didn't bother me. The position of the needle on the fuel gauge was a different matter. We hadn't had that much to begin with, and we've been shopping several times since then. I reckon we had about 7,000 yen left. That would probably cover 1 tank of petrol. Probably. I couldn't be sure. I had a clue how much this car would hold. We weren't going anywhere in particular, but that wasn't the point. The point was that we were moving. When we ran out of petrol, that would be that. Better fill up while we can.
Right.
There's a petrol station just here. I swerved into it and pulled up beside the pump.
Good morning, sir. Will you be paying with card or cash?
A teenager greeted me. This was a full service station. Cash.
Regular or premium?
Regular? Premium? Took me a moment to even work out what he was talking about. Types of petrol. Oh, wait. Is Japan one of those where you can't even fill up your own petrol? I've got a friend in America that apparently you can't do that. Like, really? You can't fill up your own... Why? 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 That's the one. My friend lives in New Jersey, I think. But it's like, really, why? I mean, why? What, you can't, Ryan? And hi, Ryan. What the... I'm gonna say right now, that is stupid! And Ryan, the only thing that you've missed so far is Alondra 2. This has got about half an hour, 40 minutes going on it. And apparently I've taken part in a drinking game. Okay, well, whatever. As for the right answer, I haven't a clue. How was I supposed to know? I'd only just passed my tests when I fell ill. I never had a chance to learn this kind of thing.
Sir?
Hang on. I stalled, racking my brains for the answer. The teenager just stood there waiting. Well, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute! You can use the wrong kind of petrol. It just doesn't work that good. I should know because my parents have done that before. They use diesel and unleaded. There was one time when they accidentally put a accidentally put diesel in an unleaded car. It worked fine, but eventually, figuring that it probably won't blow anything up if I got it wrong, I was just about to give some vague random answer. But the girl beside me spoke first.
Regular.
Huh? Regular, please.
Certainly, sir. That's regular, cash, full tank?
Yes, I'll do nicely.
Won't be a moment, sir.
The teenager grinned at us, then lifted the nozzle of the pump and thrust it into the car in one smooth motion. The stench of petrol came drifting in, though, through my slightly opened window. Hey, are you sure regular's okay for this car? She didn't reply directly. She just pointed at the price itself. That answers my question quite nicely. It tied in with what I vaguely remembered too, which was that the two aren't really all that different except in price. Price might still be a problem. I watch the numbers tick past on the pump meter. $25, $26, $27, $28. The reading seemed to be rising awfully quickly. I began to have a nasty feeling in my stomach. I began to wonder what I'd do if we'd miscalculated. I haven't really registered it at the time, but I just asked for a full tank. We had about 7,000 yen all toiled. Without knowing the car's capacity, I won't begin to calculate on what if that would cover the bill. We had a... Okay, come on. If we didn't, what then? By my reckoning, we could afford about 60 litres. 38, 39, 40, 41. The meter ticked on. and the unpleasant feeling in my stomach got worse. God, is this never going to stop? I muttered involuntarily.
Don't worry, it's nearly full.
Eh?
This only takes 50 litres.
She was right. The meter started to show halfway between 47 and 48. There was a rattle of print and the teenager reappeared at my window, holding a receipt.
Alright, sir, that'll be 5,240 yen, please.
Oh, yeah, here. I extracted a 5,000 yen note from my pocket, a rather crumpled 1,000 yen note, and held them out.
And here's 760 yen change and your receipt.
Thank you very much. I drove off immediately, leaving the attendant's cheerful farewell behind us. Now I could relax again. For a bit. At least I won't have to worry about running empty for a while. And we still had some money left, if only 2,000 yen. That was going to be a problem, but it could wait. I had other things on my mind just now. Hey, you never told me you were an expert about cars.
I'm not.
What do you mean? You even knew what fuel capacity this thing has. Maybe I've been a lucky guess, or maybe that kind of thing was just general knowledge, and I was just plain ignorant. But I didn't think so. She'd known all about these roads too. There was only one way to find out. I pulled the car's MOT certificate out from under the dashboard. You know what kind of car this is, right?
Is that a question?
Not exactly. Think of it as a quiz, if you like. For fuck's sake. What? I clicked off it. No.
Honda.
I told you it was a Honda.
Honda Integra Coupe, Type R.
Thought so. What about the spec then?
It's a 99 spec. 5-speed manual, 204 horsepower.
I couldn't believe she knew. But she continued, figure after figure, and they all matched the specifications on the sheet I was holding.
Length 4.38 meters, width 1.695 meters, total displacement 1797 cc. Can I stop yet?
Yeah, that's enough. Full marks, by the way. I put the MIT certificate back. Unbelievably, she got every last digit correct. I couldn't imagine how she managed to memorize that figure. I couldn't imagine why either. She sure knew her stuff, though. Given her previously demonstrated expertise on rose and flowers, I couldn't help but admire her range of knowledge. How come you know all this stuff anyway?
No reason. Probably just because I'm older than you are.
And she fell silent again, as always. Her face was snug back to the window. Her eyes were distant again. I didn't get the feeling she was in the mood to answer any more questions. Older. She sure didn't look it, but I couldn't prove she wasn't. All I knew is that she was sure about. All I knew for sure about her was that she was what was written on her wristband. Sesumi, blood group 0. On matters like our relative ages, all I had to go by was whether the details she let slip those were few and far between. Okay. Oh no. I do believe. Yep. Yep, it did. Yes, indeed it did. Yes, indeed it did. And I didn't save because I was waiting for the choices. But there were no choices. Joy! Okay. No, I didn't, Mr. Rhyme, because I was waiting for choices. Ah. Bugger.